Hey there, I'm Dustin with A Simple Dollar. So I've purchased 2 homes in my life. The first one was about 1,200 square feet, and the second one was about 3,800 square feet. And I think the home buying process is one of these deals where you just really have to go through it, and there's a lot of lessons you learn that you can't really prepare for. And so I've learned a lot going through the home buying process a couple times, and that's what we're going to cover in today's video. Things that I wish I would have known before I purchased my first house. If you're new to the channel, welcome to The Simple Dollar. We do videos on everything related to personal finance. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, make sure you drop down and hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss any future videos. We always put really good information down in the description as well, everything related to the video. There's lots of resources down there, so check that out before you leave too. And if you get any valuable information from this video, we'd really appreciate it if you drop down and hit the like button too. So, okay, let's jump into it. We got 10 things that I wish I would have known before I bought my first house. Number 1, start preparing early. So this includes not only the money for your down payment, but also working on your credit ahead of buying a house. The lower your credit score is, the better rate that you're gonna get approved for. So unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they wait until they're about 6 months out, and then they try to hurry up and save a bunch of money, and then try to work on their credit just before they go buy the house. The problem with this is, for one, it's a lot more difficult to save a large amount of money. If you can save 20% down and put that down towards the house, then you get to avoid what's known as private mortgage insurance, or PMI. PMI is insurance that you pay for but the bank benefits from. In the event that you default on the loan, the money goes to the bank, not to you. So it benefits the bank, but you have to pay for it. If it doesn't sound like a very good deal, that's because it's not. You're able to avoid this if you put 20% down. I was able to avoid this on both of my house purchases, and that's because I took my time and saved up ahead of buying the houses. If you want to learn more about private mortgage insurance, make sure you check out the link in the description below. That brings us to number 2, which is don't rush into buying a house. And I know hindsight is 20/20, but when I bought my second house, I did it a couple years before I was really ready to. The reason why I did that was because interest rates were at all-time historic lows at the time, and I wanted to hurry up and buy a house before interest rates went back up. Well, that was like 3 or 4 years ago, and since then, interest rates have only gone lower. So while I still had enough saved up to put 20% down on the house, it would have been a little bit more comfortable if I could have saved for another year or two. That brings us to number 3, which is save for an emergency fund as well as your down payment. So what a lot of people do, unfortunately, is they save up. Maybe they're trying to get to 20%. They save up until they hit that 20% number, and they immediately go house shopping and buy the most houses they can possibly afford. The problem with this is if you have some unexpected expense, which I believe happens every single month with owning a home, then you don't have enough cash in the bank to cover that. Imagine if you buy your house and then a month later your car breaks down and you have to have a major repair. If you don't have any cash saved up, that could cause you to go further into debt to cover that bill. So having an emergency fund in addition to your down payment is going to alleviate a lot of stress. So number 4 is going to be shop for your mortgage. And I've been on both sides of this. The first time I bought my house, I didn't shop. I was working with a real estate agent, and he recommended a mortgage broker. And I worked with a mortgage broker. Everything was fine. She was pleasant. We had no issues, but I have no idea if I got a good deal or not. The second time I bought a house, my real estate agent recommended a different mortgage broker, and I worked with him. But this time, instead of just going along with what the broker sold me, I shopped around. I called 4 additional banks to get quotes. What I found was one of the banks was significantly less than what that mortgage broker had given me. Because I wanted to work with the guy that had been recommended, I went back to him and said, hey, this other bank is offering me a much better deal. Can you beat it? That ended up being about 30 minutes worth of phone calls, and it saved me around $4,000 in terms of closing costs. So make sure you shop around not only online, but also call banks. We'll leave a link in the description to more about current online rates. And that brings us to number 5, which is pay attention during the home inspection. I've been burned by this one as well. So the second time we bought a house, the seller actually paid for a home inspection for us. Now when you have a home inspection, the seller generally doesn't want anything to be found because that's more that they have to pay for. And the buyer really doesn't want anything to be found because they really want to make sure they buy the house. They've already fallen in love by this point. But I caution you against going into it with rose-colored glasses. Make sure that you find everything, because after you live in that house for a month or two, you're going to start seeing things that you wish you had gotten covered during the home buying process. So a home inspection in my area generally runs between $400 and $600. And in order to save that $600, we just went with whatever the seller had already paid for. That ended up being a mistake because after we moved into the house, we found probably a dozen issues, and they cost us well over $600 to get all of those repaired. These are just things that had we paid more attention during the home buying process, we probably would have found and could have gotten covered and not had to pay anything out of pocket. Now, number 6 is get a second opinion, and you want to get somebody that's not going to be part of your household. For most people, when they're shopping for a home, they tend to fall in love with the house and have a tendency to kind of neglect or not pay attention to some of the downsides. You start to picture yourself in the house, your kids playing in the yard, you start to think about the restaurant down the street, and you imagine your life in that house. Having somebody that's not going to be living there can be a little bit more objective and give you a more realistic point of view. This is especially the case if you've never bought a house before. Maybe you don't even know what to consider or things to look for. Having somebody that's not going to be biased, that can come in and give you a different perspective, is going to be hugely valuable. Number 7 is shop for home insurance. When I was buying my first home, I thought home insurance was just a box you check, something you had to have. It didn't really matter where you got it from. What I later found is by shopping around, you can save hundreds of dollars per year just by doing a little bit of homework. Again, it's a little thing that maybe takes a couple hours worth of work, but can end up saving you a ton of money over the long run. And we'll leave a link in the description to some of our favorite home insurance providers. Number 8 is don't buy furniture as soon as you move into the home. I know it's easy to get excited watching these shows like on HGTV, where they walk in and everything is perfectly designed and perfectly in order. The problem with thinking that you're going to walk into a home like that is you're going to overpay often for furniture. Buying new furniture is incredibly more expensive than buying used furniture. I've saved thousands of dollars by shopping online, shopping at consignment shops, and other places where I can get used furniture that's just as high quality as something that's new and pay a lot less for it. Also, there's a good chance that your tastes are going to change as you live in the house for a little bit. You may expect one room is going to be your office, but after you live there for a little bit, you realize it's not very practical and you switch rooms. By giving yourself a little time to get used to the house, you can make better decisions when it comes to furniture. Number 9 goes back to preparing well in advance, is help others move years in advance so that you can cash in on that social capital you've built up. It's amazing when you go to move just how much stuff you have. I've been surprised every time I move. I have about triple the stuff that I thought I had. Having friends and family available to help you through that process is going to make it a whole lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. And number 10 is knowing what you can change and what you can't change about a property. This can often go back to falling in love with the house. Maybe it's next to a railroad and you think you're going to get used to the train going by every hour. The problem with that is if it annoys you, it's not going to go away. You can't easily pick your house up and change locations. With that said, some things are easy to change. So if you don't like the carpet or you don't like the kitchen countertops, that's something that can easily be changed, and you can actually get a better deal on a place if it's not completely finished. Just a couple other things to watch out for. One is your credit and making sure that you're not making any significant changes to your credit ahead of the home buying process. That can either make the process more complicated or cause you not even to get approved if maybe you've opened up a new line of credit recently. And another thing is completely disregard the number that the bank gives you on what you're approved for. From what I've seen, banks will sometimes approve you for a multiple of what you should be spending on a house. When I bought my recent home, they approved us for several $100,000 more than what I was willing to spend. So come up with your budget on your own and stick within that budget. You should always remember the incentives. The more you borrow, the more money they make. And we'll link to a really good article below that details why you should stay within your budget when you're buying a home. So the home buying process can be really exciting but really stressful at the same time. If you're going through that process right now, best of luck, and I hope this video helped you in some way. So if it did, please make sure you drop down and hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see future videos, and for the simple dollar, my name's Dustin. I'll see you soon.